Very good afternoon. Thanks for clicking on to the Thursday edition of Vogan's European Outlook for the 18th of April. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. I do greatly appreciate your support, your ongoing support. Going to be taking the period between next Tuesday and the following Wednesday off, but I may have a couple of interesting surprises up my sleeve for you when I'm away. So I'm going to try and do some pre-recorded videos so you're not left with no content for a full week. I'm going to have the Atlantic Hurricane Season 2024 forecast available for you. Going to have the May Outlook published as well prior to my departure on Tuesday. And there will be plenty of other things available on the channel. So be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so and you're a lover of all things weather. Unbiased and unhyped content is the goal here on Mark Vogan Weather on YouTube. In today's video, I try to shake things up. NMME model we'll have a look at today, which is the North American Multi. Just bear with me a second. I do apologize. It's the North America Multi-Model Ensemble model that we're looking at today. It's the first time I've looked at it, I think, and always try and show you just something a little bit different, taking a little different angle just to mix things up, make things a little bit more interesting. But first and foremost, let's have a look at some of the longer range, and then we'll look at the shorter term in a little second or so here. This was the model's precipitation forecast for the month of April, and you can see widely wetter than average conditions through a kind of northern swathe of the continent, including pretty much all of the UK and Ireland, with the exceptions of far northwestern Scotland and the Outer Hebrides. It looks as if the model did see slightly drier than average conditions here. Further south across France, northwestern Iberia, across the heart of Europe here, so the Low Countries, Germany, Poland, up into southern Scandinavia, wetter than average conditions. So I've harped on for quite some time about the prospects of something drier as we move into the month of May, and this NMME model is indicating average to slightly drier than average precipitation during the month of May. The question mark is this. So for the last 6 to 7 months, we've been overall very wet compared to average, and I showed you the 500 millibar geopotential anomalies from the 8th of November through the 8th of April, sent to me by Richard Trott yesterday. I showed you that, indicating that the low pressure south displaced, and we had the storm track right across the UK and Ireland, hence why we've seen for that prolonged period of time such wet conditions further south, meaning that you've got warmer and moister air coming in from a southwesterly direction. So warmer than average, wetter than average has been the mainstay right away from pretty much the back end of last summer all the way till now. The question mark is this: do we have a prolonged spell of dry conditions coming up, or drier conditions? I have to emphasize that point because we're not going to see no rainfall, but it just feels like a far cry from back last, well, April, May, and particularly June, where we had that prolonged spell of dry conditions. We had one of the driest Februaries on record, I'm sure, last year, last winter, and that dry spell continued, and it felt as if we weren't really getting much in the way of rainfall, and then all of a sudden we just flicked the switch. Exactly what the cause of that was, I think it's a mixture of several different aspects: northern blocking, warm Atlantic, the developing El Nino, etc., etc. The question mark is this: as we transition from El Nino to La Nina again, do we start to see a drying trend moving towards the summer months? That is the question. And certainly this model indicates that we've got average to slightly drier than average conditions for the month of May. As we move into the month of June, again, close to average, slightly drier than average across the northwest. Then as we move into July, it indicates that we start to see a little bit of a wetter signal developing into the month of August. Again, close to average, slightly wetter than average now across the northwest, where it's indicating during the first half of the summer drier than average in that same area. This may have very little bearing on the actual outcome, but nonetheless is quite interesting to see the overall solution. Temperature wise, I'm not overly surprised at this. It's showing a warmer than average May, and I think that is likely to be the case. Then, as we move into the month of June, July, August, all warmer than average. And my opinion would be this, that it is likely to be warmer than average, both individually May, June, July, August, but also collectively for the overall summer season. And the reason why is we've got a very warm Atlantic basin at the moment here. Because if we look at the current sea surface temperature anomalies here for the Atlantic, you can see that it's running firmly warmer than average. So we've got two areas of slightly cooler over the central and western portion of the basin. The subtropical and tropical Atlantic is warmer than average. The main development region, we'll look at this in the hurricane season forecast. There's that cold pool starting to become a little bit stronger against the South American coast. A lot of cold water in the subsurface that's waiting to come up to the surface. And La Nina, remember, is those strengthening trade winds through the equatorial belt that increases the upwelling from deep below up to the surface, and that's exactly what we're going to see taking place as we go forward here. So yeah, interesting stuff indeed. Let's have now a look at the day-to-day stuff, and this is the current situation that we've got at the moment. Area of low pressure has dropped south, bringing spells of rain, longer spells, and then shower activity on the backside of that frontal system. Blustery showers, cool north to northwesterly airflow. There's the area of high pressure centered to the west of the UK and Ireland here. As we play through the loop, you can see that area of low pressure moves into the near continent, reinforces the chilly theme that we've got already in place now over Central Europe. Massive difference compared to what we've seen back in the during the winter, the weekend there, sorry, where we had the upper 20s, low 30s widely across Central Europe. Then we had heavy snowfall and a massive drop in temperature. So according to the ECMWF and other model runs, we have that area of high pressure that eventually starts to build itself over the UK and Ireland, shuts down the rainfall, shuts down the weather. We have lighter winds, and with sunshine, feels fairly pleasant during the afternoon times. So Saturday afternoon, for example, western central belt may get up to 18, possibly even 19 Celsius in the Glasgow area, for example. Elsewhere, widely into the teens. So a fairly comfortable day, especially if you're in the sunshine and the winds are reduced. But clear skies, light winds, don't be surprised if you see a rural frost during the overnight period. And this is the classic situation at this time of the year where you can get the big diurnal fluctuation, cold frosty mornings, very pleasant, mild to warm afternoons. So as we press through the course of the weekend, we have a frontal system flirting with the far north mainland of the UK, Orkney, Shetland here. We may see more disturbed weather here, but overall, you can see that that area of high pressure lingers through the course of the weekend and on into the early portions of next week here. Keeping our eyes on the winds, possibly a nagging east to northeasterly wind coming in off the cold waters of the North Sea. We may see below average conditions across the southeast of the UK versus warmer than average across more northern areas of the UK. So we may even see a bit of an upside down temperature regime during the course of late weekend and into the early portions of next week if this regime actually materializes. Because if we actually look at the 2 meter temperature anomaly here, if it plays ball with me, it actually indicates that you can see the below average conditions across the bulk of England and Wales, but warmer than average, where you've got either slack winds and sunshine, or you've even got a bit of a kind of southwesterly component. Sometimes you can have southwesterly winds on the north flank of the high, and on the underside of the high, you've actually got winds coming in from an east to southeast, or east to northeast direction, actually, should I say. But notice here how cold it is across the heart of Europe, Scandinavia, into Central Europe, into southeastern England, as you can see. And that maintains itself as we move into the course of next week here. Some fairly cold temperatures actually across the heart of Europe as we move into the early portions of next week here. This is 12 UTC on Monday. Warmer than average Ireland, Northern Ireland and Scotland. Colder than average with a northeasterly wind across the bulk of England and Wales here. And then you've got anomalies upwards of 10, 12 Celsius below average. What a shock to the system this is going to be, by the way, compared to what we've seen back last weekend across the heart of Europe here. And then as we continue to play through the loop here, you can see here that we kind of fluctuate between warmer and colder due to that high kind of locking in, settling things down, and you get that big fluctuation between day and night with that overall situation here. Back to the overview chart, you can see that we have got. So if we skip back a few frames here and see what's going on, so you've got the high pressure starts to drift off during the course of early to mid next week. That high actually kind of shifts a little bit back towards the west northwest. That's known as retrogression, and therefore you've got the chance of seeing that chillier air mass over Central Europe getting pulled in towards the UK on the southern and southeastern flank of the high. Plenty of wet conditions, cold conditions across parts of southern Europe, southeastern Europe, the Balkan region here. Then as we continue to play through this loop here, so this is us getting towards the middle portions of next week, you've got that high well off to the west over the North Atlantic, and you've got more systems coming in on the eastern flank of the high, more weather systems dropping down over the UK and Ireland here. That is not a particularly warm overall solution, I'm afraid. So if you're looking for some spring warmth, it looks unlikely that you will see that. The big take home from this, and has been the case for quite some time, is the drier overall solution. But certainly that there, by the time we reach next weekend, if the model was to prove right, of course, it's a long way off. But look at that there. That is quite a significant area of cold low pressure moving south. And if we look at the temperature anomalies for this exact time frame, you can see here that it's actually a rather cold overall solution here as that low descends south. Chillier than average, nothing major, but nonetheless, that would certainly prove to be rather miserable, to say the least, to end the month of April. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Like I said already, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll be back again tomorrow. And we will have a global weather and climate report live stream this upcoming Sunday. So I'll leave the link in the description below today's video for that as well, so you can bookmark that or whatever you want to do. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Bye.